The following video may contain graphic content, video footage, or foul language unsuitable for an immature audience. Please watch with caution. I was just watching a documentary and part of it caught my attention, so I literally had to save it and keep it on deck. I was watching Ted Bundy, and Ted Bundy was literally discussing what made him who he was. While watching the interview, I was greatly disturbed. Ted Bundy was totally normal.
I'm trying to tell you as honestly as I know how what happened, and I think this is a message I want to get across.
This guy could have been my homeboy. This man could have been the guy in the bank. He was not crazy. He wasn't outlandish. And then when I discovered what really drove him to do what he does.
The most damaging kinds of pornography are those that involve violence and sexual violence. Because the wedding of those two forces, as I know only too well, brings about behavior that is just too terrible to describe.
Now walk.
The last interview was right before his execution. He literally came to tears as he told people that porn addiction caused it. Bondage and hardcore porn led to his violent streak. He also disclosed in the video that he never came to grips with the fact of his own demise. He's not tranquil about it, but he's tranquil at times as he's reflecting, because he felt like he was being possessed by something when he did his crimes. Well, I can't atone for anybody's stuff and give forgiveness for anything. A life for a life, especially if you're a serial killer. Thing is, you have to be careful what you indulge in and how far you go with it. Your mind is still a tool. If you sharpen your tool the wrong way, don't get mad that it becomes a garden tool. If you apply it right, you may be able to fix a lot more of the problems in your life and the world. Don't be like Ted Bundy. Learn from him without learning his trade.
But as a young boy, and I mean a boy of 12 or 13, certainly, that I encountered outside the home again, in the local grocery store, the local drugstore, the softcore pornography, what people call softcore. But as I think I explained to you last night, Dr. Dobson, in an anecdote, that as young boys do, we explored the back roads and sideways and byways of our neighborhood, and oftentimes people would dump the garbage and whatever they were cleaning out of their house, and from time to time we'd come across pornographic books of a harder nature than more graphic, you might say, more explicit nature than we would encounter, let's say, in your local grocery store. And this also included such things as, let's say, detective magazines and more hardcore.
Those that involve violence. Then.
Yes. Yeah. And this is something I think I want to emphasize is the most damaging kinds of pornography. And again, I'm talking from personal experience. Hard, real, personal experience. The most damaging kinds of pornography are those that involve violence and sexual violence. Because the wedding of those two forces, as I know only too well, brings about behavior that is just too terrible to describe.
Now walk me through that. What was going on in your mind at that time?
Okay, before we go any further, I think it's important to me, and that people believe what I'm saying, to tell you that I'm not blaming pornography and not saying that it caused me to go out and do certain things. And I take full responsibility for whatever I've done and all the things that I've done. That's not the question here.
That's 100. At least he took responsibility for what the fuck he did.
the question and the issue is how this kind of literature contributed and helped mold and shape the kinds of violent behavior.
It fueled your fantasies, didn't it?
Well, in the beginning, it fuels this kind of thought process. Then, at a certain time, it's instrumental in what I would say crystallizing it, making it into something which is almost like a separate entity inside. And at that point, you're at the verge, or I was at the verge of acting out on these kinds of thoughts.
Now, I really want to understand that. You had gone about as far as you could go in your own fantasy life with printed material, and you made or printed and video or film or
film,
photos,
magazines, what have you. Yeah.
And then there was the urge to take that little step or big step over to a physical event.
And it happens. It happened in stages, gradually. It doesn't necessarily, not to me at least, happen overnight. My experience with, I'd say, pornography generally, but with pornography that deals on a violent level with the sexuality, is that once you become addicted to it, and I look at this as a kind of addiction, like other kinds of addiction, I would keep looking for more potent, more explicit, more graphic kinds of.
Every time he talks about what he did, he looks off. Then he kind of stifles back a smile. You enjoy that shit. I'm not saying he doesn't regret it because he got caught, but I'm saying you could clearly see from the look on his face, he enjoyed that shit.
Graphic kinds of material. Like an addiction, you keep craving something which is harder, something which gives you a greater sense of excitement, until you reach the point where the pornography only goes so far. You reach that jumping off point where you begin to wonder if maybe actually doing it will give you that which is beyond just reading about it or looking at it.
But the one thing I do respect about this whole video is Ted Bundy accepted his responsibility. Ted Bundy knows he's gonna die. And Ted Bundy did something that most people won't do. Before he went to the chair to die, or the lethal injection, I don't know which one was active at the time, he literally tried to help others avoid being placed in the same situation. Big respect on that. But you're still a serial killer, so eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. If you enjoyed the show, please hit that cash app that's above. Subscribe to my channel. It's below. And stay tuned, and as long as you donate, I keep going.
Don't ask me what I'm doing. I'm probably doing something super stupid, acting real foolish, in love with the damn money and the game. Like we was chilling on the streets and got shot up by Cupid. Don't ask me what I'm doing. Don't ask me what I'm